The moment Leela was sold, her life became a nightmare she couldn't escape. Her parents' betrayal had been sharp and cold. They had traded her freedom for gold, handing her over to Kieran Blackthorn, the most feared alpha in the northern clans. He was a man whispered about in terror, a wolf whose name made even the strongest tremble. And now, he stood before her, towering, golden eyes locked on hers, a predator studying prey. But there was something in his gaze she didn't expect. The crowd's whispers faded as he reached out, brushing a finger against her cheek. It should have been cruel, terrifying, but instead, it set her blood on fire. Something deep, primal and irresistible sparked between them. Fear tangled with desire in a dangerous, forbidden dance she couldn't control. Leela's chains were heavy, but the pull Kieran had over her was heavier. He had bought her body, yes, but his touch claimed her heart. And in that instant, she realized the truth she had been trying to deny. Surviving this cruel alpha would require more than strength. It would require surrender and rebellion. Because once he touched her, letting go was no longer an option. The auction of shadows. The moon hung low and heavy over the dense forest, silver light filtering through twisted branches, casting eerie shadows that danced like spirits. Leela's small frame trembled as she was dragged across the cold stone floor of the auction house. The air smelled of damp fur, sweat, and fear. Her parents' whispers had been sharp and cold. You will secure your future even if it costs you everything. And now everything she had ever known, her freedom, her dreams, her name, was slipping through her trembling hands. The room was alive with murmurs and growls. Alpha after alpha, their dark eyes gleaming with power, scrutinized the gathered humans and werewolves alike. Leela's heart pounded, a caged rhythm in her chest, her palms slick against the coarse rope that bound her wrists. She had been sold, like cattle, to the highest bidder, but not just any man. She had been sold to Kieran Blackthorn, the most feared alpha in the northern clans, a wolf whose name alone made even other alphas bow their heads. Kieran stepped forward from the shadows, and the temperature seemed to drop around him. He was immense, broad-shouldered, his presence sharp and commanding, yet there was an unexpected softness in the way his golden eyes lingered on her. He circled her like a predator examining prey, and Leela felt the instinctive pull of both fear and fascination. When his hand brushed her cheek, a single, deliberate touch, Leela's breath caught. It was not cruel, not demanding. It was shockingly tender. A shiver of heat ran through her, conflicting violently with the icy dread that threatened to drown her. Kieran's voice, deep and smooth like velvet sliding over stone, cut through the whispers of the crowd. She is mine. No negotiations. No questions. Just a declaration that echoed in Leela's mind like a drumbeat of inevitability. She had been sold, yes, but in that moment, something primal, something undeniable sparked between them. The other alphas averted their gaze, sensing the rare power in Kieran's claim. And Leela, caught between terror and a strange, inexplicable pull toward this cruel yet magnetic man, realized that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. As she was led away, the chains biting into her wrists, she felt the first pangs of rebellion stir in her chest. Kieran, for all his dominance, had touched something inside her that refused to break, and she knew somewhere deep in the shadows of her fear that she would not be so easily tamed. Outside, the forest whispered, the wind carrying a warning. This was not just a transaction, it was a beginning of fire, desire, and danger, and Kieran Blackthorn, the cruel alpha who could bend anyone to his will, had no idea that the girl he had claimed would test every limit he thought he had. Chains and desire. The carriage rattled over the rocky path, taking Leela deeper into the heart of the northern clan's territory. Darkness pressed against the windows, a living thing that whispered threats only she could hear. Her wrists burned where the chains dug into her skin, but she refused to cry out. Tears, she decided, would be a luxury she could not afford, not in front of him. When the carriage came to a halt, the heavy wooden doors opened, revealing a sprawling estate carved into the mountainside. Towering stone walls, shadowed by ancient trees, surrounded a courtyard alive with the low hum of wolves and the occasional sharp bark of commands. Kieran stood at the entrance, his form imposing, his golden eyes unreadable as they followed her every step. You will address me as Alpha, he said, voice low but lethal. or you will learn quickly what obedience costs." Leela's throat was dry, but defiance surged despite the fear. "I am not yours," she whispered, but the words felt fragile in the icy night. Kieran's lips curved slightly, not with amusement, but with a dangerous curiosity. He stepped closer, and she smelled him, earthy, wild, and intoxicating. Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, but her legs did not move. His presence was magnetic, almost suffocating. "You will learn," he murmured, brushing his fingers along the chain binding her wrists. The touch was deliberate, testing, and despite herself, a shiver ran through her. "Not because I demand it, because you will want to obey me." Inside the estate, the pack members watched silently, their eyes flicking between Alpha and New Human as if witnessing the opening of a storm. Leela could feel the weight of their judgment, but it was Kieran who mattered. Every flicker of his gaze, every tilt of his head, set her heart racing and her pulse pounding like a drum. That night, as she was shown her small quarters, a room bare except for a single bed and a window that looked over the darkened forest, she tried to steel herself. But when Kieran's shadow appeared at the doorway, the air thickened with tension. He did not enter immediately. He lingered, silent, watching, his presence filling the room like a living flame. "You are not a possession," he said quietly, almost to himself, but loud enough for her to hear. "And yet, once I touch you, I cannot let go." Lila's pulse jumped at the words. There was a confession hidden in them, one that terrified and thrilled her at once. This cruel Alpha, so feared, so untouchable, was already losing himself to her. And somewhere deep inside her, a dangerous thought took root. Maybe she didn't have to submit completely. Maybe, just maybe, she could make him fight for her. The forest outside whispered again, this time in warning and promise. In the night, the chains that bound her wrists were nothing compared to the pull between them, a fire that neither cruelty nor fear could extinguish. Into the den. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the thick curtains of Leela's small room, but it did little to warm her. The scent of wet pine and earth drifted from outside, mingling with the faint musk of wolves that lingered in the estate's halls. She dressed quickly, the coarse fabric of the clothing provided to her scratching against her skin, a constant reminder that she belonged to this world now, whether she wanted to or not. Kieran was waiting in the main hall, his presence dominating every corner. The golden glow of his eyes met hers, and she felt again that terrifying, magnetic pull she could neither resist nor understand. Behind him the pack stirred, a mix of curiosity and wariness in their gaze. "Come," he said simply. The single word carried authority, and yet there was a subtle softness in it. He led her through corridors carved from stone, walls adorned with ancient tapestries depicting battles, hunts, and Alpha legends. Every step deeper into his world made her heart pound, not just from fear, but from the thrill of discovery. The courtyard was alive with activity. Wolves of all sizes patrolled, their eyes sharp, their fur bristling in the morning chill. Pack members moved with grace and precision, each clearly devoted to Kieran yet wary of her. Some whispered as she passed, their voices laced with curiosity and judgment, but all fell silent under Kieran's gaze. "You will learn their ways," Kieran said, his voice low, almost a growl. "And you will learn your place. Not because I demand it, because this pack must accept you, or the consequences will be unpleasant." Lila's throat tightened, but she held his gaze, refusing to show fear. "I will not be broken," she said, though her voice betrayed the tremor in her chest. Kieran's eyes flickered, a flash of something unreadable, pride, desire, or something darker. He stepped closer, and she felt the heat radiating from his body, the strength that could crush her if he willed it. Yet his touch, when it came, was deliberate and slow, brushing against her hand as he handed her the pack's mark, a silver pendant shaped like a wolf's claw. "This is your bond," he whispered. "It is not a shackle. It is a reminder that once you belong here, there is no turning back." Leela's fingers grazed the cold metal, and a shiver ran through her. She knew then that this was more than fear. It was the beginning of something forbidden, something intoxicating. Kieran, the cruel Alpha who could command obedience with a glance, was already entwining her into his world, body and soul. As the day wore on, she was introduced to the pack. Some were wary, some openly hostile, and a few watched her with curiosity bordering on fascination. Leela realized that surviving here would require more than strength. It would require wit, courage, and perhaps a little defiance. By nightfall, as Kieran stood close, his golden eyes fixed on her, Leela felt it, the undeniable pull between them. She hated herself for it, even as a spark of excitement ignited within her. In this den of wolves, desire was dangerous, and trust even more so. But one thing was certain. The cruel alpha had touched her soul in ways she could not escape, nor did she entirely want to. Flames of rebellion. Night fell over the Blackthorn estate like a velvet curtain, the silver moon spilling its light across the courtyard. The air was sharp and cold, carrying the scent of pine and the low, primal musk of wolves. Leela couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with images of Kieran, the touch that had ignited something dangerous inside her, the golden eyes that seemed to strip her bare of every secret she'd tried to hide. A sudden commotion outside the quarters jolted her. Voices, sharp, hostile, cut through the silence. Curiosity and fear battled in her chest as she moved closer to the door, straining to hear. "Don't trust her," one growled. "She's a human, a weakling. She doesn't belong in the pack. The alpha chose her." Another hissed. "But can we obey someone like that?" Leela's pulse raced. She had known this would happen. The pack would test her, challenge her, perhaps even try to drive her away. And yet, a spark of defiance ignited within her. "They will not break me. Not here. Not with him watching." The next morning, Kieran summoned her to the training grounds. The pack was assembled, eyes sharp, muscles coiled like springs ready to strike. Kieran's gaze never left hers, golden and unwavering. "You will face them," he said, voice deep, calm, commanding. "Prove that you belong here, or the consequences will not be pleasant." Leela's stomach churned. She was no fighter, yet somehow when Kieran's eyes met hers, something within her steadied. A challenge, yes, but also a promise. The first test came in the form of Darian, a large, muscular wolf with scars that told stories of battles survived. He lunged, claws extended, and Leela stumbled, barely evading him. Her heart pounded, fear and adrenaline a combustible mix. Kieran's presence was a tether, keeping her grounded, even as the pack watched her struggle. "You are stronger than you think," he murmured, close enough that she could feel his breath. His hand brushed hers as he steadied her, a spark of warmth that sent a shiver racing down her spine. "Do not let them see fear." Leela's eyes hardened. She rose, tested her balance, and with a swift, desperate movement dodged Darian's next strike, countering with a maneuver she didn't know she had in her. The pack gasped. Darian snarled, but there was a new respect, reluctant, wary, but undeniable. Kieran's lips curved, just slightly. Pride, desire, something darker, she couldn't tell which. But she felt it, electric and undeniable, running through her like fire. That night, after the pack had dispersed, Kieran found her on the balcony, gazing at the moon-drenched forest. His golden eyes held her in a way that made her knees weak. "You surprised me today," he said softly. "I didn't expect you to rise so quickly." "I'm not weak," she replied, meeting his gaze with defiance, "but I'm not afraid of you." For a heartbeat, the cruel alpha hesitated, then closed the distance between them. His hands framed her face, thumb brushing her cheek, his lips dangerously close. The air between them crackled, charged with unspoken tension. "You don't know what you're saying," he whispered, voice low, rough. "Once I touch you, once I claim you completely, you'll understand." Leela's heart thundered, a storm of fear, desire, and rebellion swirling inside her. And in that moment, she realized something terrifyingly true. She wanted him to touch her, even as she vowed she would never belong entirely. The forest whispered again, a warning and a promise. Desire had entered the den, and nothing would ever be the same.